Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with the Quarter Year Crisis book tag. So this is kind of similar to the mid-year book freakout tag, except obviously it's about the first quarter of the year, and it's a pretty quick little tag. So we're just going to check in about how my reading has been going, how my reading goals are going, and I was tagged by Krista from Books and Jams. I will link her down below, and the original tag was created by Roisin's Reading, and I will link that video down below as well. Number one is how many books have you read so far? And so I am filming this on April 16th. As of the time of filming this, I have read 89 books this year, which is more than I have ever read in the first few months. There's a few reasons for that. One is I intentionally did like a challenge in February where I tried to read a book for every day of the month, which I did succeed at. But also reading is my primary coping mechanism, and so when I have a lot of stressful things going on, I tend to read even more than usual. So that's another reason why I have read so many books this year. Number two is, have you already found a book you think might be a 2022 favorite? If not, what was your favorite book you read that wasn't quite 5 stars? And I do actually have quite a few books that I think are going to end up on my favorites of the year list, but I tried to keep it short. I only picked a couple fiction and a couple nonfiction. One of them is Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. This is not really a surprise because Ray Bear was my favorite book the year that I read that one, and this was incredible as well. I buddy read this with my friend Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly, and yeah, just absolutely adored this. This duology is now one of my favorite series, so I loved that. And then the other fiction one I wanted to talk about is a very recent read, and that is Not Here to Be Liked by Michelle Kwok. I'm not sure if that wrap-up has already gone up. If not, you're going to be seeing it soon, but this is a really underhyped contemporary that deals with feminism and with the ways that we can feel like bad feminists. The characters are great, the relationships are great, and I think it handles the premise really, really well, because when I talked about it as an anticipated release, I was a little nervous about how it was going to balance the message with the romance just because of who the love interest was in regards to the plot and the premise. I'm trying not to get into unnecessary detail here, but yeah, I really loved that one. And then my two nonfiction picks are probably not surprises also. Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. This was a present from my friend Katie at A Sea of Tomes, and I'm so grateful because I had been meaning to read this for ages, and this finally pushed me to read it, and it was just as incredible as everyone said. I think the content is obviously very important and like well worth 5 stars, but I think the writing itself is also really excellent. The way Bryan Stevenson talks about these interconnected issues, the way he writes, the way he makes this so engaging, I am just very impressed with this book. And then the other nonfiction one I wanted to talk about is a memoir that is Go Back to Where You Came From by Wajahat Ali, and other helpful recommendations on how to become American. This is a memoir that does a lot of different things. It obviously talks a lot about Wajahat Ali's own experience growing up the child of South Asian immigrants. He's also Muslim, and he talks about like Islamophobia and xenophobia. And I think this memoir just does a really fantastic job of telling these very personal stories while also connecting them to wider issues, to systemic issues. And this is also a really, really hilarious book. Like, Wajahat Ali is such a funny writer, and I think he balances that humor with some of the really heavy stuff he talks about in just a really beautiful way. Number 3 is any 1-star books or a least favorite book of the year. And sadly, I have had one book that got in the 1-star range. And again, if you have seen my recent wrap-up, this is not a surprise, but that is Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. I gave this book 1.5 stars. I just really, really didn't like this. I think this is so overwritten. I don't think the characterization is very good. I think the ending of this book is incredibly unsatisfying. I'll link my wrap-up where I talk about this because I basically did a whole in-depth review right in the middle of that wrap-up because I had so many thoughts. Yeah, I'm liking the other stuff I'm reading from Robin Hobb better so far, but this trilogy I am not a fan of. Like, the first book was very okay, the second book was very good, and I was very excited to continue the series, and then this book just really, really didn't work for me in basically any way. Number 4 is most read genre so far, and I don't do like a spreadsheet or a genre breakdown or anything. Like, I don't really collect stats for my year, so I just kind of had to estimate and then count and see if I was right. And I'm pretty sure it's fantasy. I didn't like count every book I read and sort it into a genre, so I guess this is still estimating. But I've read 33 fantasy books this year so far, and I'm pretty sure that's my biggest category. Which makes sense because that's one of my favorite genres. Number 5 is a book that surprised you. And once again, I picked a few for this question. One of them was Darling by Kay Ingram. This is a contemporary retelling of Peter Pan that is also a mystery thriller, and I just really, really enjoyed it. And the reason that surprised me is because, for one thing, I'm not big on mystery thrillers, but also there's some things with Peter Pan retellings that I almost never enjoy. Like, there's some specific choices authors can make, and I had kind of heard that this book did some of that, but I think because I knew that going in and because I was ready for that, I actually really enjoyed this book. Like, I took it on its own terms, you know? I thought that was very, very good. And then another one I wanted to mention is The Quiet Gentleman by Georgette Heyer. Cotillion is one of my favorite books, but I have not yet found another book by Georgette Heyer that I enjoyed as much, or even kind of close to as much. Like, I don't think I've ever given a book of hers other than Cotillion over like 3 stars or 3.5 stars. Like, I have a pleasant time reading them because I like her writing and her humor and everything, so I enjoy the writing, like the reading process of her books. But the romance often doesn't work for me much, and this one I actually did enjoy. It's kind of a mystery romance, and I can see why not a lot of people enjoy it, but I give it 4 stars, so this, like, that officially makes this my second favorite Georgette Heyer book so far, so that was exciting. And then I also wanted to mention The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, specifically the audiobook version. Like, I'm surprised I enjoyed the book so much, but I'm also very surprised that I love the audiobook so much because I have a hard time with audiobooks. I talk about that a lot, and this one I really, really loved. I listened to it while reading along, and I'm glad that I listened to Amanda from the Curly Reader because she specifically recommended the audio version because of how good the narration was in general, but also how it was really a lot better to listen to the male perspective read as opposed to reading it yourself because it's intentionally written in a very choppy way. And I definitely agree that the audio was the way to go, and I just really enjoyed this story and these characters. Also, Leon is on my book boyfriend shelf, which I think is the first time a contemporary book has made it to my book boyfriend shelf, so that's exciting as well. Number 6 is a book that's come out in 2022 already that you want to read but haven't yet. So I picked a couple of new releases that I own and that I'm very excited to get to, and I still haven't gotten to yet. So one of them is One for All by Lily Leinoff. This is a gender-swapped Three Musketeers retelling. Like, all of the main characters are women, and I believe the main character also has a chronic illness, I think. And this is gonna focus on like female friendship, and I'm just really excited. I really hope I'm gonna enjoy this one substantially more than the original, but I still haven't gotten to it yet. And then the other one I wanted to mention is Fairly Embarrassing, because that is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. This is an author where I keep getting excited about her books. I keep buying her books, and I have not read any of them yet. I just feel like I'm gonna love her, but I need to actually read one. Yeah, so I still haven't read one of her books, and I promise I'm planning to soon. It just keeps not happening. Number 7 is one goal you made that you're succeeding at, and one that I think I'm definitely doing really well at is reading a lot of indie fantasy. That was something I talked about wanting to do at the beginning of the year. I started getting into it more near the end of last year, and I've just been finding some really amazing authors and books, and there's some really great books out there that just happen to be indie published, and I feel like it's especially exciting to find some that you love that are indie published, because if they're really good and you recommend them, I feel like that has an even bigger impact for authors than, like, not to say that you shouldn't promote traditionally published books you love, but you know what I mean? I think it has an even stronger impact when you're talking about a very small press or an indie author or anything. And also you just end up finding a lot of really great books. So it's a win-win, and I've been doing really well with that. So I'm happy about that. I hope to do some more recommendations videos for those soon. I still have one that I need to get up. And then the goal that I need to focus on, that is question number 8. Yeah, one goal you made that you need to focus on. And for me, that is, like, I could have picked a few, but definitely the one that I want most to focus on is my like book hauls / physical TBR goals, which, like, I've talked about before, how I'm still kind of figuring out the best way for me to like track my book buying, to limit it while still feeling like I can buy new books. And if you've seen my last few book hauls, I am not doing as well as I hoped. My numbers are pretty close, I think, but I'm still buying more books than I've been reading, and part of that is because I do read books from my library. I do read like borrowed books or, you know, ebooks or audiobooks sometimes. So just because I read a ton of books in a month doesn't mean all of those are coming off my physical TBR. So I would like to get my physical TBR down as we continue the year. And finally, number 9 is some new to you booktubers, bookstagrammers, book talkers for 2022 that you recommend. And I'm not on Bookstagram or Book Talk, so I'm just gonna talk about a recently discovered booktuber, and that is Sarah from Sarah's Perusals. She's not like a new channel or anything, but I just ended up finding her because she is also part of the Bronte Long that I am a guest on. And I've just really been enjoying her content so far. She's very like, I just love the way she talks about books, which I know is a very generic thing to say about a booktuber, but she's very like precise and analytical, but she's also great at conveying like her emotional responses to books, and she's just like a very fun person, and I really enjoy interacting with her and her content. Okay, everybody, so that was the quarter year crisis book tag. I really enjoy doing that, and I'd been thinking that I kind of wanted to check in with some of my goals that I was doing, either for me or on a video, so this was a perfect opportunity to do that. As for people I'm going to tag, I'm going to say that if I mentioned you in this video, I'm officially tagging you if you would like to do it. And of course, I also tag anyone else who's interested in doing this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!